of these regional leagues basically having each country having its own league of its own partners that would then feed into sort of annual cups. It was an option that we explored. For anybody that was paying a lot of attention at the time, a lot of information leaked, a lot of discussions that were exploratory and that were concepts got leaked and they got preached as gospel.
So, as I know, you are probably not just an on-air talent at Riot Games, right? What other occupation do you have here?
Well, very recently I was promoted to on-air talent manager. So in terms of the office and in terms of my responsibilities, I am now directly in charge and responsible for the on-air shoutcasting team. I've been with the company a long time. I'm one of the older members of the team. I also come from a background where I have a degree in marketing and business management. So there's a lot of the skills that I have developed and learned and studied that I did not get to practice in everyday shoutcasting. You know, doing vocal coaching and improvisation classes and team fight practice is something that I do from a passion. You know, I'm a shoutcaster because I love what I do and I love this video game and I love esports. But I'm also very driven and I really like the business side and I really enjoy being directly responsible for things. I like it when my head is on the chopping block. You know, that I have to deliver something and I have to make things better. So I pushed very hard off air to get more responsibility and fortunately I've got the support of the team around me. So I'm directly responsible for hiring, for performance management, for managing the broadcast budget for on-air talent, which includes things like wardrobe, freelance guests. I manage a lot of the planning when it comes to the rotation, who gets to shoutcast which games, for example. And then primarily just looking after the team as well. So making sure that Vedia sounds and looks smarter in each of these segments, that I can get more hype from Dracos, that I can develop Medic to be another big franchise play-by-play. And that's some of the responsibilities I have when I'm not on the show.
So you're basically supervising the whole casting crew. Something I've witnessed over the last couple weekends is your team has gained a lot more new members. Like we see Endercast, right?
Yes.
He's on the analyst desk or on the
correct. He just joined us a shoutcast desk as well. Exactly.
Right. We see him and we see these other people.
Foxtrot, Law, George. It's exciting because you know, for anybody that's watched EU LCS for a while, you'll know that it's been a limited number of faces. You know, we haven't had too many new permanent guys. And that's because it's very difficult to farm shoutcasting talent in English when you live and work in Germany. You know, all of the English commentators from around the world are either American, British, or Australian. Now, in my case, I'm the only South African, and I hope to remain the only South African. It keeps me very special. But generally speaking, you have to go to these English markets, you know, the English-speaking markets to look for natural talent. Deficio and Crepo were some examples of non-native English speakers that definitely broke into the scene. Definitely should not be forgetting Shocks as well. But they're like magical unicorns. You know, they're the exceptions.
The one in a million.
Exactly, right? So what ended up happening is I spent most of last year trying to develop a pipeline for shoutcasters, trying to develop a series of talent that over time we could develop and craft and work with. Medic actually came from that pipeline where we rejected him for an application for EU LCS maybe 2 years ago and gave him some feedback and said, you should work on these things. And he came back about a year later and said, right, I've worked on all these things. Here's all my new VODs. Look, tell me I haven't got better. And I went, holy crap, you have. Like, that's awesome. You know, let's start on Challenger last year. He did so well and we, you know, got him to join LCS. So in terms of the pipeline development, I now have got this network of sort of amateur casters who we've been working with and people we interviewed. And at the beginning of the year, made a pitch to my boss and I said, we've got, you know, a budget for shoutcasters. At the time, we had Vedius and Deficio as our 2 color casters. We were looking for a third. I said, well, let's not hire a third. Instead, let's use the money we have for that headcount and invite rotating guests, invite different people that we can test and we can sample. So we don't have a full-time third person on the team, but I could maybe try 6 different people. We tried it in spring. We tried a very limited test. It went very well. We're really happy with how it played out and how it worked. And we looked at some of the guys that worked at EU Masters, we looked at some of the players, and we're just going to keep expanding this. I think Ender is now a lot more stable. He'll be with us for all of summer. And I still really like this idea of rotating guests to keep the show fresh, different personalities, different ideas. And it's just another way that we can make the entertainment side as valuable as the information side.
So for people like Deficio, it seems like he'll need to step away from the camera for a week or two if that's what's going to happen. So you're going to rotate in new talents.
Exactly. And like, for example, for Summer Split, Deficio wasn't on the broadcast for week 2 and week 3.
Oh yeah.
He took some time off and he's working on some side projects, so he will be back later in summer. But it's nice to be able to rotate these different guests and still have EU LCS be the same product and the same show that we have all grown to know and love.
That's true. I mean, but isn't there a certain, not necessarily danger, but there is a certain danger to always showing different faces, right? I mean, people are maybe going to lose contact or lose the connection to the faces that they know, right? You rotate in new faces sometimes.
Fair. I think that's fair, but I also think when 70% of the broadcast stays the same every week, it's a risk we're willing to take.
Yes, all right. Yeah. We're not going to say it's going to be boring, but that's not what we're trying to say, but yeah, okay. So we were just talking about local streams just a while ago. I think there's a German channel called Summoners In, along with a couple of German stars who make their content. They have German broadcasts of the EU LCS and also other broadcasts. And there's a big one in France too. I think O Gaming is from France.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Europe, as a continent, has all these different languages and they have their different broadcasts. So does Riot Games plan to do anything or to cooperate with these channels in the future?
Well, we already are. At the moment, channels like O Gaming, like Summoners In, they actually purchase broadcast rights from us and they get a clean feed whereby we produce the EU LCS and we'll send the camera cuts and the in-game content through to the broadcast partners. They then take that feed, add their own graphics and their sponsors and their shoutcasters on top of it, and then they broadcast it out. We actually work very, very closely with a lot of the international language partners that we work with. And I know for a fact that certain members of our broadcast team are actually actively working to upgrade the amount of resources that those broadcast partners have. I'm a huge fan of the potential of EU Masters. I absolutely love the idea of, country versus country. And I love seeing, to be frank, I loved seeing Mexico beat Germany in the World Cup. And I love seeing Sweden versus Switzerland. I have a Swiss and a Swedish broadcast team member who sit next to one another and we get along really well, but the matchup happens in the round of 16. And these two guys, you'd think they're mortal enemies. I love that. And I'm hoping that same ferocity of fandom can develop with EU Masters, and then seeing the different broadcast partner streams and then also representing their own language teams. That's definitely an area where I'd love to see us grow and develop and expand.
So something I'm interested in is, we've had news of the EU LCS going regional for a while. People thought some teams were going to leave for their country, basically, let's say Fnatic Origin in Spain or something, and then you have like G2 and some other team in England and Great Britain. Someone's going to be here. And people heard that there's supposed to be, probably 10 teams per country competing for themselves. It's similar to soccer, right? We have each country their own leagues, and then at the end of the day, everyone comes together in a huge Champions League style, where we have something like the current EU LCS thing, where the biggest teams are competing. As far as I know, that idea got scrapped. Once we get into franchising, we are going to have something similar to what we have right now, if that's correct. So what was the idea behind that? Because if you were going into separate countries, I'm sure that you're either going to have to extend your own productions, or you're going to make take the help from these other channels, Summoners In, O Gaming.
What I can definitely do is, because it's actually a really, really large topic, and what ended up happening during the course of 2017 was the EU LCS was exploring options for our future. Now, at the same time, over in North America, our head office and our North American broadcast decided that they were going to go the franchising route, and they were going to announce it in the middle of 2017,
yes,
wrap it up and debut the franchise model in 2018. So they were pretty committed. They knew their plan. It is a very North American style of sports league. It's a very North American way of thinking. And it made sense for their market, for their region, for their player base, for their investors. It all added up. Now, with them having this committed path, the European office was exploring a lot of avenues. And one of the avenues was the one that you just talked about in terms of these regional leagues basically having each country having its own league of its own partners that would then feed into sort of annual cups. It was an option that we explored. For anybody that was paying a lot of attention at the time, a lot of information leaked, a lot of discussions that were exploratory and that were concepts got leaked and they got preached as gospel. Now, it was quite painful for us because we were exploring things. And Riot Games as a company, we pride ourselves on being forthcoming with information. We like to tell players the good and the bad. We like to tell teams the good and the bad. And this was just one of those examples where unfortunately that trust was broken a little bit. We had many, many roundtables. We spent hours and hours discussing and debating different options. For myself and the involvement that the Shotcaller team have, competitive formats was one of the areas where we had a huge amount of influence.
Right.
I hate arguing and debating best of 1, best of 2, best of 3, single elim, double elim, Swiss style, knockout, round robin, double round robin. Honestly, it's great. It's amazing sitting around with 20 people debating which one is the best, what we prefer, how many weeks, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. But at the end of the day, we decided on a system that's going to be very similar to North America. Franchising is a term and a word that makes sense in American legal jargon and in the way that they've structured their contracts. But here for 2019 in Europe, we're going with a long-term partnership model. So the word franchising actually doesn't quite fit. It's a different set of rules that govern and regulate it. So we won't be using that ourselves. And there's a number of factors, a number of reasons that led us to this decision and to this point. And one of the big things that made it feel absolutely like the right call was when you looked at our spring split. We went back to best of 1, 10-team, double round robin, the format that we had in 2013 and 2014, and with more teams than then. Our viewership figures were fantastic. Our league was fantastic. It was the most competitive split that we have ever had, arguably because everybody was a little bit worse. Yeah. But that's fine. It made it very entertaining. Every single game mattered until the very last week, and it's the same format we're going to have in 2019. So it felt right that we decided our course of action. We committed to our 2019 plans. We started 2018. We hadn't announced it yet, but we knew the direction we were going. And then by the time we did announce it, everything was feeling right. Everything was in the right direction. And we're just going to build on the momentum that we're developing now in 2018.
Interesting. So going forward into 2019, so I assume franchising is going to start in a spring split?
That's correct, yes.
That's correct. So we can expect some new teams coming in, maybe some old teams going out?
I don't know. So, I mean, the way that it works, applications have actually just closed. So 1st of July was the deadline. It's very, very, very legally secure and protected. So
obviously, yes.
Within the office, there's only, I think, 4 or 5 people that have access to the information. And I don't even know how many applicants we have. I don't know who has applied. I don't know who has not applied. I know for a fact that Giants, for example, they made a public statement.
Yes, they had this tweet. Right.
Exactly, and they had a tweet and they said, we've applied for long-term partnerships. The way that the system is going to work for July and August, the team here with a third-party arbiter or adjudicator, I don't know what the right word would be, they're working together to review the applications. They'll create a shortlist. After the shortlist is created, that team will then interview each of the applicants. And there's a whole list of questions. They'll say things like, how do you plan to grow your fan base? How do you plan to produce content? How do you plan to build a team? How do you plan to build the LCS fan base? The partnership model is being built and designed in a way that we work together. And it's not just Riot Games and one team. It's Riot Games and all 10 teams, but all 10 teams also work with all 10 teams. We bundle together our resources. So at the moment, it's kind of dog eat dog. If you look at teams like G2 and Fnatic, if they produce content series, truthfully, they don't want the other team's series to get views.
Obviously, they want the others to benefit. And I believe Ocelot said something like, he had interviews where he said he's really frustrated, or he was really frustrated how they were producing the content. They were pulling up these other people who just get carried, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And now the idea being, in that situation where it's sort of every man for himself, it sucks, right? You have this big investment, you're working on these things, but truthfully, your competitors are the ones gaining the advantage. Now we're going to be looking at a system where we're going to be bringing people on board where G2's views will benefit everybody else, and everybody else wants to generate views that will also benefit G2. So that's the system that we're working towards. I'm very excited at the potential, and I really cannot wait to see which organizations manage to make it in, because spring next year is going to be a very exciting time in Europe.
Yeah, I think the way NA handled it so far seemed really great. I remember the first day when the franchising started. Reggie drove in with his Lamborghini and stuff, basically saying, yeah, we got the money now.
Exactly.
We secured investors, people are coming in, the industry is growing because of the franchising system. Obviously, we're expecting same results for the EU. By now we see all these new sponsors for the NA, right? We got these sandwich makers, we got the State Farms,
Jersey Mike's,
right? We keep saying these all around. I expect there to be a lot more companies competing for the same spots where they are advertising right now, right? And I believe DX Racer has joined in with EU LCS, probably preparing for what's to come in the next year. So exciting times, definitely. So thank you so much, Trevor, for the interview. I basically just walked up to him this other day and asked him, can I get an interview with you? And he was
kind enough. And that's the biggest thing.
And that's the biggest thing.
Get over that first hurdle, get past that first challenge.
Yes.
And then once you get involved, it gets easier and easier every single time.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
So thank you again very much. It has been a blast. This will be it from us at the Riot office headquarters in Berlin. My name is Noah Yao. You can find my website and some other social media information down there in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me if you liked the video, if you want to see more of that stuff.
Hit that thumbs up and let him know. Future interview, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Can understand? I cannot speak.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I've never practiced. No, dude, I've been here for 7 years. It's shocking. I got here in 2013. I went to Cologne.
I mean, you know how to order food and stuff, right?
Yes.
That's easy.
Yes, and beer.